Now, what about wigs?
We will have a few wigs, and then everybody else I've said for 5 or 6 months, don't cut your hair.
Now, I got to ask you this big important question. A number of years ago, I was involved with the Valley Institute of Theater Arts, and they did Cyrano, and they brought in a young professional actor. He was fantastic, and he was, for lack of a better word, obsessed with his nose. Have you got your nose yet?
My nose came in the mail just yesterday. I was working with a company that designs some of the masks for Star Trek, The Next Generation. So we've got a slightly different nose going.
Really, and so the actor has not had it fit on his face yet.
No, it's kind of a surprise.
Well, you know, Stanislavski says that the costume and makeup is 40% of your role. I'll be interested to see when that actor puts his nose on how it might change what he's doing. What do you think?
I think it's an integral part of Cyrano, obviously, and I think that's a very important piece. Curiously enough, my biggest issue is which adhesive is going to work with his particular skin, so that's a lot of experimentation. But the deal with a costume and any other kinds of makeup issues and stuff, I believe has to be approached as professionally as possible, because it's the last layer of somebody's character. And in many respects, when actors see themselves in a mirror, when actors assume that persona, a large change comes over. It's a huge change, as you well know.
Yes, I always wanted to play Quasimodo, and I thought when I got my hump on, it would make a big difference. So when does the play go on?
Our play opens October 23rd. That's a Thursday night show. We are offering a special ticket for seniors over 65. It's a $2 ticket to get in the door. I'm changing the dynamic of an opening night audience, because I believe that there are a lot of seniors who have grown up with the idea of Cyrano. They saw Jose Ferrer in the movie. They understand the story greatly, and I want to give them a chance to come and see a show that's we've worked really hard to do and will appeal to them as well. And we run the 23rd, 24th, 25th, October 30th, and November 1st. All shows at 7 p.m.
So you have a nice long run. You know, there's really not any other theater going on in the city of Los Gatos, is there?
I don't know. I haven't been outside the theater for 7 weeks. I have no clue what's going on.
What is your wife's name again? Do you remember her name?
Yeah, her name's Debbie. Last time I checked.
Well, so you've got these 45 actors on stage, you've got sword fighting, you've got the nose, you've got the music, you've got explosions that you have to have. So why are you doing this?
Dennis, with every show that I've done here, I've done 3, I have to have a personal and passionate connection to the work that I'm doing. Otherwise, I just don't feel it's a creative effort that I want to be involved in. So, for example, with Rashomon, I had this strong connection to do something connected to Asian culture. That was a very significant piece. And with Wit, it was my own personal connection with cancer issues. My in-laws died of cancer. My father's battling cancer. And I had this very deep commitment to getting the story right, which, as you know, is not something a theater person should be thinking about. But I was just driven to get that right. So with this show, I realized I couldn't quite beat up my audience so much every year that I had to touch something different, but it still had to connect with me. And so when Cyrano fell out of that box of books in my garage, and I picked it up and I said, I know this is amazingly hard, but this is the play, I realized instantly what my secret drive would be all about, and this is it. This entire production, 45 actors, 60 costumes, professional choreographer, professional costuming, 7-8 weeks straight work with 1 day off. Why is this huge push happening to me? Because this entire show is a Valentine to my wife. It's the only thing I can think of that can show the world exactly what passion it is for me to love my wife the way that I do. I don't think people believe me otherwise, and so this gigantic effort is simply for one thing only. It's my Valentine to my wife.
Why does this show particularly serve that purpose?
Because Cyrano has this sense of love that people will not recognize in him. He has a sense of this deep and abiding, passionate, do-everything love that most people assume does not exist in the real world. But it does, because it exists in me. And it is so difficult for the real world to believe that something like this can actually exist in a very deep and abiding way. And so partly my effort and my time is being spent as a way of expressing that, because it is indeed a real part of my world.
It's a very self-sacrificing love that Cyrano has, isn't it?
It is amazingly self-sacrificing, and for a man of such talent and wit and intelligence to have a world that doesn't understand him and a world that will not understand him, it's such a philosophical indignity to the quality of his life that nobody will understand him.
Does he really allow anyone to understand him?
That's a very good point, and I think we only see Cyrano in his adult life. So I like to think that through the course of his life, he has made efforts to have people recognize this in him, which is why he is known as a poet. But I think because people cannot see beyond the facial feature that he has, and once that becomes more of his known persona, then what is happening underneath him is entirely ignored, or if he makes a comment about it, people are not willing to recognize it for the depth that it is.
Well, the depth of analysis there, have you helped your actor playing Cyrano realize that and think about the childhood and what brought him to this point?
That's a fine line, because my 3 lead actors have never acted before, ever, not one.
What?
My 3 lead actors have never acted before, not 1 second. So, for Cyrano, I have to tread that really fine line between pushing him in a creative and expressive sense and then helping him memorize hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines and be on stage under the lights, something he's never done before in his entire life.
And he has to sword fight, and he has to deal with his nose that he hasn't quite worked with yet, and the heavy costumes. I'm sure these costumes weigh a ton, and all that sort of thing. So how do you draw that out of a young man like that?
It takes really, really careful talking, massaging almost, finding a way to make that connection, finding a way to symbolically make it important.
And they don't really even know the language of acting there, do they? Not yet, anyway.
No, I always have to say, go over there, would you? And so that gets to be difficult.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, are you going to let your wife know that this is your secret?
Only on the first Saturday night show.
You're going to bring her up on stage and make a pronouncement?
I'm bringing her up on stage. I'm going to give her a bouquet. I'm going to kiss her, and we're going to go off stage together.
Oh, that'll be fantastic. We better come for that. My wife and I will love that. Well, Mr. Wong, thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks, Dan.
And I know that we'll be here again to see the show, and thank you for coming on the Artbeat.
Thank you very much.